Hello students, this is Dr. K. Rajshekar. I'm a faculty in Science and Technology at Shikara Academy. In this video, I'm going to focus on what to study for Science and Technology part for TSPSC Group 1 and Group 2 exam. Okay, more or less this syllabus is common to APPSC as well. APPSC also conducts similar exams as you know. Okay, and the common syllabus for both TSPSC and APPSC you will notice. APPSC had specified it in more detail. Okay, right. So overall, you know that for Group 1 prelims paper or Group 2 paper 1, okay, both are named as General Studies and General or Mental Ability paper that we have, where 150 questions are given. These 150 questions are multiple choice questions, objective type questions where you are given 4 choices to pick the right choice from them, right? With 1 minute per each question. So 150 questions, 150 minutes, 2.5 hours that you're looking into. Syllabus wise, if you see, TSPSC specifies on the website that general science and India's achievements in science and technology. It's a one-liner, as you notice, is a single sentence where you see that you have to study for general science and India's achievements in science and technology. So what areas to cover? What areas have been asked in the exam before? So these questions come into every student's mind, right? I'm trying to answer those questions here. So yes, it sounds very simple, that general science, but what needs to be studied under general science? And what are India's achievements in science and technology? Okay, so I've analyzed the past questions. Of course, unlike UPSC, statewide exams don't happen every year after year. So the analysis actually had to go for several years, right? So keeping in mind these gaps that we have, in general, you can expect about 25 questions on average from sciences. So 20 to 30 questions. There were times where in Group 1 exam, for example, there were 47, 48 questions came from sciences. But this is not the case in every other exam. So we notice that the questions are about 20 to 30, an average 25 questions. Okay, so but what areas from general science, what areas from science and technology that we need to focus on? So I would like to answer the areas of interest. Just give you a brief idea on what type of topics that you need to pick up from. And once I'll tell you what topics, I'll also briefly talk to you about, the sources from where you can read this information. So general science, there are 3 areas, key areas in general science. They are biology and physics and chemistry, right? Biology, physics, and chemistry. And more or less, if you notice, questions from biology were taking the majority of the chunk from it in the past, okay? We were noticing about, let's say, out of 25 questions from Group 1, you would probably see about 15 coming from biology, 15 questions coming from biology, and about 10 questions coming from physics and chemistry. The trend has slightly changed. We see more of applied type of questions. So questions from the technology part, application part of sciences. But even now, even in UPSC, APPSC, TSPSC, we do see some straightforward questions coming from these 3 areas of general sciences. Okay, but these areas as it is very huge. Like if you study biology, there are students who study biology for 3 years, then they're undergraduate. There is enough to learn, correct? But we don't have so much of time. Keeping in mind the limited time that we have and the limited background you may have. For biology students or people with science background, this is just basic review of what they have studied in their bachelor degree or in even high school. And I'm sure all of you have studied these in your high school as well, but it has been some time. So you might have forgotten some of those concepts. So it is important for us to actually identify those core areas from where questions are coming. Yes, at the same time, our goal is to develop broad perspective on this and as well as prepare towards answering those specific questions. So some questions may be predicted as you predict in the exam. Some questions may be difficult to answer, but given that you studied enough, you would be able to guess and answer those questions. Maybe by using elimination, choice of elimination, thereby eliminating the wrong options and going with the right option. Okay, with some amount of knowledge you may have related to it. Okay, right. In either cases, so what do we need to learn? in biology, physics, and chemistry. Biology, for example, so most fundamental thing that we study in biology, if you open class 8th, science book of NCRT, or even if you notice the same topic in the corresponding of Telugu Academy books or statewide books, you would notice that cell is the most fundamental thing because cell makes up all parts of our body. All tissues in our body are made up of cell. Cannot think of any part in our body where cell is not playing a role, both structural as well as functional role, we say. So there are many aspects of cell that we need to know, like what is a prokaryotic cell, eukaryotic cell, the difference between plant cell and animal cell, right? So those type of things, few highlights that we need to learn related to cell. And then the major area from where questions have been coming is from physiology part of biology. So what do you study in physiology? Physiology is about functioning of our body, various parts of our body. Like we have heart, part of circulatory system. We have lungs, part of respiratory system. We have intestine, stomach as part of digestive system. And we have kidneys as urinary system. Like that, there are many parts in our body. There are certain structural features that you need to know. Like for example, what is a membrane covering the lungs? Membrane covering the lungs is called pleural membrane. It is called pleural membrane, pleura we call, or pleural membrane we normally call it, right? What is the fundamental structural and functional unit that you find in lungs? These are called alveolar regions, alveolar region. Nowadays, because of COVID, we have been hearing quite a bit about alveoli. These are like ball-like structures or balloon-like structures at the tips of these bronchial parts in our lungs. They basically swell, inflate and deflate in response to filling of air and loss of air or release of air into the other parts of the body. Okay, these are the fundamental units of our lungs. Like those type of areas that we need to focus. This is about structural part. Functional part, what happens? Like when you inhale, what happens to oxygen? Where does it go? And when it enters into the body, what does it do? What is its important role? It's very important for you to focus on these important aspects. There's so much to learn, but if you focus on these key concepts in it, it will become easy for you to answer questions like that. Because in the exams, you notice not only factual type of questions, also conceptual questions, analytical questions also nowadays becoming more common. So you can expect all sorts of these questions, especially as state governments are focusing or trying to make it more like UPSC type of exams. So analytical based questions are also important, but still we have to keep in mind that there is a lot of factual data is being asked in these statewide exams. Okay, right. So conceptually, when you learn things, it also becomes easy for you to remember them and connect them. That is why I'm stressing so much on the conceptual understanding of these topics. So when oxygen enters into the body in a process called, we have extracellular and intercellular respiration. And this is where you notice that oxygen being used in generating ATPs, energy for our body. Every cell makes use of this with few exceptions and then generates energy for the body to function. So those type of functional aspects that we have to learn from many areas that we have in physiology. Then one of the areas where questions are very common in many competitive exams, not just in TSPSC exams, is hormones. Different types of hormones, what glands produce them, what are their functions, etc. need to be learned. Like in the news also, we have been hearing about oxytocin. Oxytocin, Indian government few years ago planned to ban production of oxytocin by private players. Why? What does oxytocin do in the body? Why is it government focusing on banning it in terms of its production? Not complete ban, but regulating its production by private companies. How was it misused? So these type of things that you need to learn. Then nutrition. Nutrition is definitely one of the very, very important topics from biology where questions used to come. And I think it's going to continue like that as well. Like I remember one question from Group 1 exam, which of the following, foods or plant materials that you would find vitamin C being the highest? Vitamin C rich substances, a product from the following list. So you have to identify such a thing. Or which of the following generic name or general name is used for vitamin C, like ascorbic acid. And also deficiency diseases are very common from the nutrition part. Next, infections. Infections, I think nobody can deny this fact that every competitive exams, infections have become a common theme. One reason is infections are becoming a major problem to us as humans, not just to us, to plants and other living creatures as well, right? The common most infections, COVID-19, I think even in the sleep or when you are waking and walking around, you are hearing about COVID-19 every time, right? So there's so much of scope to ask questions on these infections. COVID-19, okay, a lot of different aspects. In the future, I'm going to do some videos on that. So what are the important areas for the prelims, keeping in mind the prelims, and then of course other infections as well, like Zika. We have been hearing cases of Zika in India. So what is Zika? What causes this? What transmits this? How does it spread? Okay, are there any vaccines and treatments for it? Excuse me. So those things can be asked. Or Nipah, leptospirosis. Okay, so we have tick-borne diseases that we have been hearing in Karnataka forest, for example. So many mosquito-borne diseases that we see around Hyderabad, any other place in India, like for example, Japanese encephalitis, dengue, chikungunya, etc. Are in the world, the other parts of the world, we are hearing about Ebola, yellow fever, etc. What causes them? Is it bacterial, viral, specific pathogen name? Very important. I know a bit daunting for some non-biology students, but yes, very, very important topic. Then we also see questions coming from plants, like specific areas of plants, like for example, photosynthesis, questions on photosynthesis of plants, questions on pigments of plants, questions on hormones. Just like us, plants also have regulatory compounds called hormones in them. So specific hormones and their functions, etc. And also you see that genetics, questions from genetics are also common. Like either it is simple terms like what is a gene, and phenotype, genotype, alleles, these type of things are part of basic biology. Okay, or to a level if they want to ask some analytical questions like blood groups. If father has his blood group, mother has so and so blood group, what is the chance of a child having this blood group? So those questions are also very much possible that you might have seen in other competitive exams. So these are the areas from biology which are important for you to prepare for. Okay, these are sample type of areas, core areas, of course. You may add a few more areas to this, but in my opinion, these are the areas that we need to cover in your preparation towards TSPSC, the Group 1, Group 2 exams. Next, we'll come to physics part. Physics and chemistry are also integral components of general science. What to study in physics? Very much like in biology, physics is very vast and bit more complicated than the other areas. Okay, so what to study? Questions are not too difficult in the past exams. If you see, questions have been focused on units. Decibels are the units of what? Okay, so astronomical units. Sometimes you hear the questions on things that may not be very obvious to you, but simple enough. If you heard it once, you might be able to answer them. Angstroms. Angstroms are the units for so and so. Like that, questions have been asked. And important laws and their applications in physics. For a given area, if you're talking about, let's say, surface tension, if you're talking about pressure, like in pressure, very well known principle is Pascal's law. Pascal's law is connected to which of the following? Or they can ask an application and say application is based on which of the following laws. Hooke's law is very commonly asked in the exam. And Archimedes principle, Newton laws, very famous Newton's third law. So those type of laws, their applications, very key principle. You don't have to derive the formulas for this. A basic quick statement on it, what type of applications are built based on these laws are important. Then different forms of energy, because physics is all about learning about energy and its interaction with matter, right? Heat, for example. So what are the different properties of heat? Heat in the form of energy or as an expression as temperature. What is the connection? And also you may need to learn about various effects of heat. If you heat up something, what happens to substance? What happens to solids, liquids, gases? How do they behave differently? And what type of care is required when heat is a common theme in atmosphere, right? So those type of things are important. Then light. I must say that light is probably the area where from majority of the questions you see in the competitive exams. Lot of different concepts, lot of different applications possible here. Because from light, you may need to learn about when light falls on something, it comes back, it reflects back. So reflection, principle of reflection, or sometimes if it falls into a different medium with different density, maybe from air into water, what happens? It diffracts, it bends. Okay, principle of that and applications or observations related to that. And then dispersion, light scattering, diffraction. Okay, so these type of things you would hear related to light. There are several examples like twinkling of stars. Why does sky appear blue to us? And what color does it appear when someone is outside the atmosphere? Like a astronaut is watching it from a space station. Does it still appear blue? So what is in between us when we are on Earth and when we are on some other object? If they in the absence of atmosphere, how does sky appear to us? So these type of observations are important. Okay, rainbow formation of rainbows. Color of light, red light, traffic lights, for example. Why are they chosen to keep them in red? So those type of things are important. And then sound. Sound is another area where questions have come in the exam, like like how fast does sound travel in solids, liquids, gases? Okay, and the speed of sound normally used even in other areas, applied areas of sciences. You would hear about sound and its applications, like sonography. We hear about ultrasound. We hear about those type of applications are important to be aware. Then magnetism and electricity. Magnetism and electricity. Magnetism. What are magnets? Ferromagnetic substances, diamagnetic substances, paramagnetic substances. Okay, and then applications of magnets. Magnets are used in several electronics devices like telephones, for example, speakers, for example, those type of applications. Nowadays, we hear about magnetic trains, magnolaves, Japanese born concepts on magnetic trains. So applications of magnets like that, MRIs, modern applications, MRIs, magnetic resonance imaging, etc. Those type of topics are important. Similarly, in electricity, again, like in heat, also in electricity, conductivity. What conducts them better? What materials conduct them better? What are insulators? Those type of things are important. Observations are important. Units are important. And then, electricity, Ohm's law, for example. Ohm's law. And then nowadays, I think the old question was always, what was the filament in a bulb, incandescent bulb was made up of, like tungsten, right? Questions may be possible now on LED lights. We have been seeing LED lights everywhere, became part of government programs because they cost less energy, they consume less energy, less expensive, okay, overall in usage. So these type of things are important in the electricity part. Traditional questions like motors, generators, resistance, etc. can be asked, or more modern things can be asked. Keep in mind, I think those that we see in day-to-day life, either we read in the newspapers, probably have higher importance. But of course, sometimes we get questions that are 10 years old or 15 years old sometimes, but they're becoming more and more rare these days. Then modern physics, like radioactivity. What are radioactive substances? What is nuclear energy? What is it based on? Right? Fission, fusion, etc. These type of topics are important. Okay, this is about physics. Next, we'll move on to chemistry part. So what to study in chemistry? Chemistry is again a broad area, a lot of things to study. But if you notice the previous exams and any other competitive exams, questions mostly asked are mostly focused on like elements from periodic table, elements per periodic table, like metals, non-metals, metals with special properties, like which type of the following metals exist as liquids at room temperature, which of the following non-metal exist as a liquid at room temperature. The most abundant elements in Earth, most abundant elements in atmosphere, most abundant elements in universe, etc. Those type of superlatives are important. Are gases that caused problem, gases that caused problem in the past, like methyl isocyanate during the Bhopal gas tragedy, or more recently LG polymers incident in Vishakhapatnam. So those type of things can be asked in the exam, and their properties, so applications, etc. are important. Lightest gas that is used in oxygen cylinders along with oxygen, gas that is used in filling the tubes of aeroplanes, okay, xenon lamps, etc. Those type of things can be asked in the exam. And then pH in everyday life. So acids and bases concept are part of our body. We see them in everyday life. Like one question I can remember from the group one exam is antacid. Antacid is made up of what? It is to control or neutralize the acid that our gut produces. So we need a base for this. Magnesium hydroxide or milk of magnesia is being used for it. So those type of things are important from pH in everyday life. Names of acids, like for example, we have arachidonic acid present in groundnuts. Okay, or if you can think about the malic acid in apples, and ants bite usually releases formic acid. So those type of names. These are all factual data. Just this collection of information that you would find in textbooks and in the material in the market as well. Then from chemistry, what is important is organic compounds. Organic compounds like fuels, petrol, diesel, paraffin, kerosene, etc. Carbonification process, okay? And then things like unleaded petrol. What does it mean by lead, unlead? Why lead was present at one point of time but not now? And then we have various different types of organic compounds that we use, like pesticides, fertilizers, right? Those type of things are important. Polymers, natural and synthetic polymers like rayon, okay? So, or cellulose, starch, etc. Those type of things. Brief idea, understanding about them. And general chemicals and their common names. This is very common thing in the exam, like caustic soda, cooking soda, washing soda, or baking soda we call, and washing soda, right? Plaster of Paris, etc. These type of things, and their uses like chloroform and its use. Where is alum is used? Okay, where is the silver bromide is used? So those type of compounds, chemical compounds, and their regular uses. Explosives, different types of explosives. We hear about nitroglycerin, TNT. We hear about RDX, R&D explosive. Okay, cyclonite, etc. These type of names, chemical names, what they are chemically. Okay, are they strong or weak explosives? Where are they used? Are they used in mining? Depending on whether weak or strong ones. They are good at detonating or they are good at blasting. Those type of things. Soaps. What type of chemical reaction happens in soaps? Okay, so how soaps are very good at actually removing oil and dirt. The basic idea. Hardness of water, different types of hardness of water. How do you remove hardness of water? Temporary and permanent. What type of salts actually causes hardness of water? Okay, chemical reactions, chemical bonding, types of chemical reactions and the strengths. Covalent bond, hydrogen bond, van der Waals forces, ionic bond. Brief comparison. Okay, similarly, chemical reactions, oxidation reduction reactions. Where do they take place? Batteries, energy generation inside our body, etc. Right? And then hydrolysis reactions. So substitutions, eliminations, brief idea about types of chemical reactions. And then medicines, different medicines, analgesics, pyretics. What do they mean? Just once if you read about them and make a note of some example, the paracetamol is called a pyretic, antipyretic medicine. Pyretics, those increase temperature, antipyretics, those decrease temperature, those type of things. So terminology is important, applications are important, concepts are important, and factual data, years, when was this discovered? Oxygen was discovered by whom and when? Okay, so this type of factual, conceptual, application-based information is important for the exam. Okay, so there is a lot of work that happened on this, a lot of material on this. I'll tell you what type of resources that you can look into to study for this. Next, as per the syllabus, as I was telling you, general science and achievement in science and technology, many organizations and institutions are in India working towards promoting science and building more deeper understanding in various areas of sciences. What are those research institutions in India? List of institutions, where they are located. Okay, in the next session, I will talk to you. I'll give you a few questions where we can see the type of questions that have been asked in the exam. Nowadays, I think it is relevant to see where is National Institute of Virology is located. Where is ICMR? Of course, those organizations are regulatory organizations. ICRISAT, it was asked in the exam before. ICRISAT is located in which place? National Institute of Nutrition, where is it located? Indian Institute of Sciences, where is it located? Okay, like that, there are many key organizations and their locations. Then scientists' recognitions and their contribution is also important. Famous scientists. Also, I'll give you some sample questions in the next session that Sachindranath Bose they asked about. Are scientists who got Nobel Prizes, right? Scientists who discovered like DNA fingerprinting, for example. These type of questions are important for the exam. Okay, and schemes and regulations in news. So many schemes and regulations, as exactly like developments wise, if you see in India, we are bringing a lot of regulations. In biology part, if you notice, we are bringing surrogacy bill. Well, Group 2 exam, 2016 TSPSC exam, asked about some key points in surrogacy regulation. Okay, similarly, DNA regulation bill can be asked in the exam. And we have been bringing ART bill. We are bringing data privacy bill, data protection bill. Like that, those bills, key ideas in those bills are also important for the exam. And schemes, they asked about PMJY exam scheme, or they can ask questions both in the mains as well as in the prelims, okay, related to specific programs, Digital Saksharta Abhiyan, Digital India program, National Computing Mission, Supercomputing Mission, Quantum Computing Mission, more recently announced by Indian government. Those schemes are important for the exam. Okay, these are from the general areas, and then applied areas of sciences, space technology, many developments. ISRO is leading a lot of developments in India, and we're also including private players in this field. So that is important for the exam. And defense, from defense sector, defense, lot of missiles. Either we are purchasing them or we are indigenously developing them. Their names, their capabilities. Okay, there was a match the following question that came from the in the Group 2 exam in 2016, talking about the specific type of missiles and where they are launched from. Okay, similarly, questions on like Agni, properties of Agni in the format of statements. Agni 5 has which of the following features? Is it 2-stage or 3-stage? Does it use solid fuel, liquid fuel, etc.? Very much like that in space also you can expect where different satellites, different launchers, different fuels. Recent ones from the current affairs part also from science and technology, recent launches, Chandrayaan 2 for example, or planned launches like Gaganyaan, etc. are important. Then ICT, information and communication technology, another field where a lot of things are happening. I already told you as part of schemes, supercomputers, quantum computers, artificial intelligence. Concepts are important and their applications are important. Government programs, Niti Aayog is bringing artificial intelligence program for India. Blockchain technology, India chain technology for, which is blockchain technology for India. They're building, state government like Telangana is focusing on using it in land surveys. So those type of RTA work, those type of things or applications are important for the ICT. Fifth generation communication technology. In the past, we have seen questions on fourth generation communication technology. There is very much possible to ask questions on 5G technology now because India is working towards launching 5G in India. Some countries have already launched it. So either which country launched it first, which of the following countries have launched so far, what about India? So these aspects are important for the exam. Okay, right. Next, nuclear technology is also a possible area, potential area. Questions have come. The next session, I'll give you those 8 questions. And other potential areas, if you notice, nano, 3D, 4D technology, stem cell technology, etc., are very much potential in the exam. So this is idea about what to read for prelims, and many of these areas also help you to prepare for a mains exam as well, especially for Group 1 students. So where to read it from? The core books that for your preparation should be NCERTs. 8th to 10th science books. Core areas, read everything from 8th to 10th sciences, physics, chemistry, biology is covered very well here. And few selected areas from 11th and 12th, like infections, biotechnology part, genetics part. Some of these things can be studied from class 12th. Some plant related physiological components can be read from 11th class biology book. Physics and chemistry is a bit deeper. I think a bit more learning after 8 to 10 studies should be enough. Okay. So then we are also seeing a trend that we are going from the core questions to the more contemporary, more current based questions. Where should we read that information from? Press Information Bureau, PIBs, are very good. And usually, if you read year end reports from respective governments, EST releases one, ISRO, Department of Space releases one, Department of Defense releases one. So, those, if you read, they accumulate the main achievements for that year and give you information. You can read highlights from those, and as well as magazines, if at all, if you can read, like Science Reporter for Science and Technology. Yojana covers a lot of key areas in sciences as well as other areas. So these type of magazines are useful. Newspapers wise, of course, many people prefer reading Hindu. Indian Express is also very good in terms of explaining things like COVID related things, what diagnostic techniques, what type of vaccines, etc. are nicely analyzed. Sometimes Times of India also complements very well here. Down to earth, especially environment related areas or policy related areas, down to earth is very good source for us. For current affairs related to Telangana Today is the excellent source for it. Like that, these are the different sources that you can read, okay, related to this exam. So I'm going to come up with more videos on this. I hope this is very useful to you, where I provided you basic overview about what to read for prelims part, especially focus on science and technology area. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll come up with more videos that are useful to you for this exam.